Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Welcome in to everyone watching, listening, live, or on demand. This is the Makeshift Managers Podcast. I am Austin. That is Devin. I point at the exercise bike, so congratulations. You have upgraded to an exercise bike.
Let's go, man. We love to see it.
Happy Easter, Passover, Ramadan to all who celebrate over the weekend. Devin, did you have a good Easter?
Man, the older you get, the more mundane Easter becomes. But for everything considered, it was a great holiday. Spent time with family, with my fiance as well. So you can't really beat it. I also got to see the new Fantastic Beasts movie. The word "fantastic" being operative. Good film. I'd recommend it.
You know what else Devin would like to recommend you? The Lawnmower 4.0.
As we've said before, happy Easter. And you know what? Spring cleaning just came back. And fellas, have you started spring cleaning yet? Because the carpets need cleaning, the drapes need dusting, and your lawn needs mowing. So spring has sprung, and the global leaders in below the waist men's grooming have the best tools for cleaning your aisle 5 in your pants. So time to clear out your winter brush and join the other 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free worldwide shipping with code TMSM. And as you've heard me say before, Austin and I had the pleasure of being some of the earliest people to try out the new Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. And as Austin has said and myself have agreed with, 4 is better than 3. And for many reasons, Manscaped has the full package you need for spring cleaning this year. Their Performance Package 4.0 is the only tool you need to keep your boys looking and smelling like fresh tulips your partner wants. And just starting off your spring cleaning using the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, you get the most precise shave on your hedges. Did we mention it's waterproof as well? There's no need to worry about watering your grass with this tool. It's equipped with an LED light, so you know it'll be a major asset to your new shower routine. And clear your holes and smell the spring air with the Weed Whacker. As someone that does grow nose hair, the Weed Whacker has been a lifesaver for me, and especially in regards to my fiance. She loves the fact that I don't have the little flyaways coming out of my nose nowadays. And so this nose and ear hair trimmer provided the proprietary skin-safe technology. It helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes, being your nostrils. And so after clearing your nose hair, make sure you can get rid of that foul ball smell with the Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver. And Austin, the main differences between your Crop Preserver and Reviver is the Preserver is the anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer, whereas the Reviver is a spray-on toner for your balls. So keep your boys from sticking to your leg and leave them smelling like fresh flowers. And finish off your grooming routine with the Plow 2.0. And I know what you're thinking. I thought we were talking about below the waist men's grooming. You were wrong. With the Plow, feel free to shave your face, because if you're using the same ball trimmer for your face as your balls, Manscaped and I will agree, you're doing it wrong. And to end on a more serious note, the start of spring also marks the start of Testicular Cancer Awareness Month in April. Manscaped has partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to bring awareness to testicular cancer, men's health, and early cancer detection. Manscaped is committed to raising awareness for the most common form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35 and are giving support for fighters, survivors, and families impacted by testicular cancer as part of their We Save Balls initiative. And like I said in the beginning, don't forget, guys, use code TMSM at manscaped.com for 20% off your full order and free shipping worldwide.
It's just as easy as that, as always. So, if you haven't read the title, it's time for the NFL. We've spent 7 weeks on Major League Baseball, and we've missed a few
A
moves.
lot.
A
A
few
lot.
moves. So
A
we
lot.
figured we'd do our best to catch up in an hour, hour and a half, probably like an hour and 15.
Yeah. Keep it
An
tight.
hour.
35, 36 seconds.
So let's just dive right into it. We're going to start with the playoff contending team, the team who got knocked out by the Bengals, the team with the best quarterback, the best head coach, the best wide receiver. Yes, you have figured it out that I am talking about the Las Vegas Raiders. Probably the team that I don't know where I'm going with this one. They extended Derek Carr, but let's get to the meat of what they did. They traded for Devontae fucking Adams. Devontae got an offer from the Green Bay Packers. He said, "Nah, I'm good. Send me to Las Vegas." please, it'll be fine. The Packers in their cap hell probably could have never given Devontae or did they give Devontae what he wanted? I think he just wanted to go to Las Vegas.
Well, the thing with the Packers situation is I just think the Packers have a problem with like ownership. They don't have a sole owner in control of the team. So they don't have like a figurehead in these trying times. The problem with the Devontae Adams situation is that they could not give him top receiver money after giving Aaron Rodgers the most lucrative deal for a quarterback at that time. So Devontae kind of saw the writing on the wall. The team is capped out as to how good it can be, especially with Devontae on the roster. And he's not getting any younger, and he's best friends with Derek Carr. So I think
that's the thing, right?
I think he was done after they offered him a franchise tag, because I think that was the biggest thing is they were like trying to work on a deal, but they were just going to franchise him, and he probably just told them, "I'm not playing on the franchise, so trade me."
Like every guy sees that as a slap to the face at this point. Most guys don't take the franchise tag. We see this a lot. I'm going to tag you. Okay, I'm just not going to play.
But it's super different because the thing with like Melvin Gordon not accepting the tag and saying I'm going to hold out, it's Melvin Gordon. Devontae Adams has been a top 3 receiver in football since before I graduated high school, damn near. So it's like Devontae's been that guy, and he has deserved the money for lack of better terms. And so he was just saying, "Here, I'm planting my foot. You can do what you want, but if I'm not making top receiver money, I'm not playing." And so
the biggest thing is you talked about the team's kind of capped out to how good they can be, and they've just they got one Super Bowl, and it's kind of been a joke ever since of never being able to get over the hump that is the NFC Championship. And especially losing to the Niners consistently, like Aaron Rodgers just cannot beat the San Francisco 49ers when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, and a big thing with the Packers is they just gave Aaron Jones a bigger deal. They've just re-signed Jair Alexander to big money, and they're having to get rid of other guys that have been on this team for a long time. Za'Darius and Preston Smith are on the chopping block. I think Za'Darius already got released this offseason. They're having to make very crucial decisions in terms of their roster construction and money allocation. So Devontae Adams would have been the final stake in the ground of saying this is the team and we can't do much to fix it beyond this point. And even with Bakhtiari getting healthy, I don't know if he's on a long-term deal. They just don't have the finances to pay all of these guys and actually be able to put forward the depth an NFL team needs. So I think it was a bit hand in hand. I think Green Bay thought to themselves, we really can't afford to pay Devontae Adams $30 million a year on top of who we're already paying. And they would much rather take the draft picks that the Vegas Raiders offered them and try and get some talent out wide that they so desperately have needed outside of Devontae Adams for the last 5 years. So that's the biggest problem with Green Bay. They can't get past San Francisco because not only do they have Devontae Adams, they don't have anybody else reliable outside of him. So while it hurts that they're getting rid of one of the best 3 receivers in football, if they can draft appropriately and correctly, maybe they come out a little bit worse, but not.
That's a tough ask.
I think it's addition by subtraction. If they can get deeper at spots while also still getting production out of the receivers this year, I think they have a better shot of making it to the Super Bowl as opposed to last year. Because if you box out Vontae and take him out of a game, you're trusting Allen Lazard, and now there's not even MVS out in Green Bay. So they definitely had to diversify the portfolio to a certain extent.
Yeah, you're going to have to open up the passing game too with Dillon and Jones. And I know Jones is a really good receiving back, and Dillon is not on the same level, I would say, as Aaron Jones. He's more of a power runner, but if, you're able to use A.J. Dillon more in the passing offense, then I think they'll be fine. They'll still be a playoff contending team, especially given their division. They'll still most likely win their division because the Bears nor the Lions are going to compete, and you never know what the Vikings are going to be. I mean, maybe, without Mike Zimmer, they could be different, but that's for further down the line.
But a big thing about Las Vegas is offseason. It's not that they just added Devontae Adams in the trade. Before that even happened, they re-signed Max Crosby, their premier defensive end, to a 4-year, almost $100 million contract. And Chandler Jones, he said, "Goodbye, Arizona. I'm making the money out in Vegas."
For every great quarterback in the AFC West, there is now a great pass rusher to end that quarterback's life.
A great rushing duo, for lack of better terms. This division went from having Joey Bosa, Bradley Chubb, Max Crosby, and then Frank Clark in each division. The Chiefs didn't add a premier rusher, but Frank Clark and Chris Jones are a great tandem on the interior, exterior. And they actually added Melvin Ingram last year. I think it was a buyout or a trade from the Steelers. But now this division has arguably 3 of the top 10 pass rushing tandems in all of football.
It's easily the best division of football, and it's not particularly close
Not
anymore.
close at all. Not close at all. The NFC West was great last year, but legit, whenever we're looking 100%. At the roster constructions and the allocation of like players, the NFC West lost some key pieces, and the AFC West gained damn near half the pieces that the NFC West had. Like whenever we're going through transactions, we'll see that a lot of these big name dudes out in the West just went to a different football conference in the AFC.
Like currently in the NFC West, the only team you can really trust right now is the Rams. Like you don't know if Kyler Murray is holding out. Chandler Jones is no longer a Cardinal. The Seahawks are probably going to go into the dirt, and the Niners are going to be a great team. You know, it's just the question mark that is the quarterback for.
But they still have Jimmy is the thing. So for as weird as the Trey Lance situation is, I think the Niners are about to set up. They're set up as well as the Rams are, as long as they can ink Debo to a new deal before the season starts.
That's the biggest thing that's hurting him.
He holds out, that offense could stall because he was so much to them. But if they're healthy, they have the pieces to be competent and even a contender in a less than stellar NFC coming into the year.
So speaking of quarterbacks, we're talking about pass rushing duos, quarterbacks. Move over to Denver, who traded for Russell Wilson. As Devin shakes his head as he is a Chargers fan. I personally will continue to hang out over here in the kindergarten section of the NFL while we hang out in the NFC East. Okay, thanks. Look, we talked about it last year how Denver was a good team, and the biggest thing for them was the quarterback position. They had a good defense. I think Pat Surtain played out of his mind. Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon are good running backs. They have a good wide receiver trio. The stats don't back it up per se, but you can get into that with Bridgewater and Drew Lock and who's been throwing them the ball. And they had Noah Fant at one point until he's now a Seahawk. The full trade, I don't know the full trade. It's a lot of picks. It's a lot of dudes. I got
it right here.
So there you go. Russell Wilson heads to Denver. And then what is
the Seattle Seahawks acquired it was Russell Wilson and a 4th round pick in exchange for 2 first rounders, 2 second rounders, a 5th rounder, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and defensive tackle Shelby Harris. This is a win now move for Denver in a division that's about as win now as football can get. That's
the thing, right? They don't have a choice. They can't really afford to, like, if you can look at it and be like, well, wow, they're in the toughest division in football and you make this move. It's like, well, you don't have a choice. They are in a comfortable position as much as all other 4 teams are. They just had the worst quarterback out of the division. And now they've gotten
the 3rd best.
Probably the 3rd best at this point in terms of like
week
career.
It'll fluctuate.
Any given week he could easily hop Herbert or Herbert can hop Mahomes, and it like those 3 will shift through. But I think we'll always understand that Derek Carr, to set the bar extremely high, Derek Carr is the worst quarterback in that division.
To bluntly put it, it's 1A, 1B, 1C, and then 2. It's not like a 1, 2, 3, 4 in this division. Derek Carr could go to the NFC East and be the best quarterback in the division, and I don't think anybody bats an eye. Dak is good, yes, but Dak is not as good as the Cowboys think Dak is.
Look at how they massacred my boy.
But I think the interesting thing about the Broncos coming out of this offseason is they are the antithesis of the Los Angeles Chargers. Because the Chargers this offseason, they had their rookie deal quarterback, and they brought in a lot of talent that is not only older, but also established. A lot of like Pro Bowl, all pro caliber defenders. And they brought back their established receiver. The Broncos have a lot of young, cheap talent on the perimeter and in between the tackles and on the defensive end as well. And they brought in this mega star at quarterback that I think he's getting paid, $40 million a season?
They're going to be good for a while.
They are going to have to be if this deal wants to look good at all.
It's
I'm not
super
sold.
cliche to say, but they will go as far as Russell Wilson takes them because
And I don't know
they
how far
will.
Russell Wilson can take you.
True, but what I'm saying is they have the surroundings for Russell Wilson. It's not no longer he doesn't have a line or he doesn't have a defense. Like the Broncos
Yeah.
had probably one of the best situations for a good quarterback to go to. And so it's basically as far as Russell Wilson will take them. And I know we haven't seen a lot from Russell Wilson over the past couple of years. But it's hard to say with that situation in Seattle. He's going to be playing a lot of tough teams, but he's still Russell Wilson in the end. He's still good at scrambling. He's still got a strong arm.
Is he good at
He's Russell
scrambling?
Wilson.
Is he good at scrambling still?
He's okay at it. I mean,
The
he's better
Russell
than
Wilson.
some.
So the thing that my biggest problem with Russell Wilson today is let's not act like because there's a quarterback that I think we could draw similar parallels to in terms of Lamar Jackson. Russell Wilson has had a better arm than Lamar Jackson for the entirety of his career. But ever since Lamar's MVP year and Russell Wilson having that super hot year against Lamar Jackson and that MVP year for Lamar, Russell's been on a downward trend. He wasn't as good the year before, and he got hurt, and he sucked last year, for lack of better terms. And Lamar got hurt, and he sucked, quote unquote. But Lamar's name is getting drugged through the dirt before he's ready to sign a long-term deal. Russell Wilson's making $30 million a year. You're trading for a guy who is a finished product who we haven't seen lead winning football in what? Half a decade? Is it Pete Carroll's fault? Is it roster construction's fault? Sure. You can't blame a quarterback for all of his surroundings. But now Russell has to put up or shut up because he was very fortunate to make 2 Super Bowls in his rookie scale deal because that's how the NFL works. You do not pay a quarterback top 5 money and win Super Bowls. It's just statistically not how it's
Here's
worked.
the thing, too. Russell Wilson's going to be 34 years old.
Yeah. Time is not kind to quarterbacks.
He's going to be a Bronco for this season. He's going to be a Bronco for next season. I will not confidently say that the Broncos will win a Super Bowl in that time. It's just a murderous row of anybody can win the Super Bowl out of the AFC.
They will not win it.
But here's the thing. What happens? There's no way you can re-sign Russell Wilson at 36, right?
They're going to have to. Genuinely, they've locked themselves into Russell Wilson probably retiring in blue and orange, which is why I don't like the deal. Because the thing is, they're paying Russell Wilson $30+ million a year, possibly 40. They're going to have to extend him if they want to compete. And this deal is too little too late. If Seattle were open to moving Russ 3 to 4 years ago, the Broncos could have been great coming off of the Peyton Manning era.
Have just gone from Manning to Wilson.
Manning for 2 years of dog shit into Wilson. Because the thing is, Jerry Jeudy is going to be cheap until he's not. So he's going into year 3. So they're going to have 2 more years of Jerry Jeudy before he has to get paid. Cortland Sutton just got paid. Tim Patrick got paid. I'm pretty sure they're going to pay KJ Hamler. Javonte Williams will have to get paid the year after they pay Jeudy and repay Russell Wilson. There's not enough money because Surtain's going to get top cornerback money. They don't have the means to keep this thing going much farther past this window that they've just manufactured. And if they do keep it going, Russ is too old and the weapons are going to be worse. I don't see how it...
Did they have a better option?
No, because John Elway can't scout quarterback talent, but I'm not going to sit here and take it easy on the Broncos. Yeah. They've literally wasted the Broncos could have drafted Justin Fields last year. And do I think Justin Fields is better off than trading for a Russell Wilson? For next year, no. But I think for what the Broncos situation is, I would have rather had Justin Fields.
Look, Pat Surtain is very good at his job. He is a very good cornerback.
Yeah, I
just don't think it was the right pick at the time for the Broncos. It's easy for me to say because I would have loved the Cowboys to have Pat Surtain right now. And I was frustrated that we lost all those cornerbacks when we got to Dallas. I mean, we got Michael Parsons, so I can't complain at all.
Yeah.
But it just didn't feel like the right thing to fix in the draft when Justin Fields and Mac Jones were still there. Granted, they probably would have taken Fields out of the two. But it just, I don't know.
My problem with the Broncos is they've spent so much draft capital over the last, say, half decade on guys like Paxton Lynch and Drew Lock, where they finally lucked into having a top 10 pick in a draft where there's 5 quarterbacks that can go in the first round. And they didn't go quarterback.
Yeah.
And I get it. Corner is an extremely important position and arguably the most tough division to defend receivers in because of how loaded the AFC West is in terms of perimeter threats. But Pat Surtain doesn't turn a team led by Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock into a playoff contender, and it sure as shit doesn't turn them into a Super Bowl contender. So I get building through the draft and creating a defense and building a team organically, but I just think there's better ways to do it. We've seen it time and time again where more often than not, star cornerbacks are not – they usually do not come to fruition on the team that drafted them, and – we've seen a renaissance with this whole Tre'Davious White, Jair Alexander, Marshawn Lattimore type deal. But more often than not, I feel like corners, especially like your Stephon Gilmore's, Xavier Rhodes is having a renaissance. Patrick Peterson's on a different team playing well. You can get really good cornerback talent by trading for a guy that's a little undervalued or signing guys outright in free agency. The value will still be there as opposed to drafting a guy top 10. Okay,
so let's move on to we'll save the Chargers for last because I think they made like the biggest move. So, and you're gonna go.
I'm gonna cry.
I figured we'd try and keep the rants down as much as possible, unless somehow Gary Sanchez gets into this, and because just Gary.
Big news: Kansas City lost their biggest home run hitter. Tyreek Hill saw the money that Devontae Adams got paid and said, "Hey, Patrick, can I get the Patrick price?" And then the Chiefs front office said, "Oh, hell no." So it turned into a two-man pissing match between the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. And sadly,
it was about the Miami Dolphins the whole time.
Tyreek is not living in sub-25-degree weather. So Tyreek goes from having arguably the best arm in the NFL to an arm that's been questioned since he's been drafted. So I'm super excited to see how this powder keg in Miami pans out because they've added tons of pieces aside from Tyreek Hill. So
they signed Raheem Mostert. They still have Myles Gaskin. Oh, Chase Edmonds. It's not Raheem Mostert.
They've added both of them. They got both of those.
They did add both of them.
Mostert.
It just seemed like such a crazy move. I didn't believe it when I said it out loud.
They added your.
They just hate Myles Gaskin so much.
They picked up Cedric Wilson, who was Austin's favorite wide receiver 3 in all of football once Gallup went down.
Hey, man. What can I say? This offense basically has to turn into
the Niners offense. They signed their guy in McDaniel. Like Mike McDaniel's the head coach now. He was their offensive assistant for the last couple of years.
Tyreek Hill a running back?
No, but he's faster than anybody else in the league damn near any given Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's what this offense has to turn into because I'm not going to sit here and say Tua and Jimmy are the same quarterback, but they can both benefit from the same thing. You have a super fast wide receiver. You have a lot of playmakers. You have Tyreek Hill, Cedric Wilson, Mike Gesicki's been a good serviceable tight end for a while now. You have a lot of running backs now. Your line is okay. So you're pretty much just playing the short game now. Your defense is not terrible. It's hasn't really lost anything, so it should still stay the same.
They also added some line help in Teron Armstead and Connor Williams. That's going to be big for them. And then a big thing for them as well is Teddy Bridgewater on a 1-year deal. I know Teddy Bridgewater isn't going to point the needle any direction, but if Tua struggles, they're going to have somebody that can come in and play competent starting quarterback football.
It just doesn't need to be what it was with Ryan Fitzpatrick, this carousel. You need to give Tua a X amount of games, and if he struggles, then that's it. It can't be you play a quarter, then Ryan will play 2 quarters, but you could play the 4th quarter, and then next week we'll see where we're at. You can't play this carousel game again. It's just not going to work. And I don't think Mike McDaniels is going to do that, but it's a scary thought to think about because you think about somebody like Tua, or you put yourself in Tua's shoes, it's shitty. It's shitty constantly feeling like this team drafted me, but they are probably regretting it almost instantaneously, it feels like.
Yeah, the problem with the Dolphins is over the first 2 years of Tua's career, it's essentially been this pseudo rookie year for him because he's been start-stop for the most part or injured. So this is essentially his sophomore year if he gets a full season of starting. you just don't really want to waste time on rookie scale deals because once that money's done, you have to pay them market value. And for the NFL, quarterback market value is something that you cannot afford to pay to less than stellar talent. Citing Jared Goff, citing the whole Cleveland fiasco with Baker Mayfield and how they maneuvered this offseason. You can't afford to pay guys that you're not sold on top end money. It's just not how you're going to win because quarterbacks, statistically now, they will make between 20 to 25% of your cap. And there's no way of getting around that. So if you aren't sold on the guy, you cannot give him that money. And you have to essentially start anew. Unless you're a team like Indianapolis where you're giving 1-year deals to any serviceable starting quarterback that's on the market. This is their 6th starter in 6 years. Like, quarterback is the most important position in football for a reason. It's not just because they touch the ball the most. It's because they get paid the most. And in a league with a defined salary cap, being sure you're getting value at each position is it's the most important part of like roster building, to be honest, because there's a reason why Mahomes won a Super Bowl on his rookie deal and Herbert's been so good on his rookie deal. The talent isn't derived from the money, but the value is.
Yeah. And, this is all just about off of Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs. They've added Juju Smith-Schuster on a 1-year deal, I believe.
MVS, 3-year deal.
Marquez, Valdez,
Scantling.
There we go. So I think the biggest thing for me is when Andy Reid said the offense wouldn't change significantly. We're going to find out really fast. And that's not a pun. That we're just going to fight. You still have Travis Kelce. You still have the best tight end in the game next to Mark Andrews. 1A, 1B there. But he's still Patrick Mahomes. They still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, however much they want to not run the ball, or with Damian Williams. The Chiefs are still going to be the Chiefs for the most part. Losing Tyrann Mathieu is going to suck for them. I don't know.
They signed Justin Reed. They signed Justin Reed before Tyrann Mathieu was even like rumored to be fully gone. My thing is with this Chiefs team, for as much as they lost on paper, they have retooled especially well for the values because for the money they were going to pay Tyreek Hill annually, they got a mix of Corey Coleman, Juju Smith-Schuster, and MVS. While they combined will not be Tyreek Hill, you've got two guys. MVS has burners, and Juju, whenever he's not the wide receiver one, was an all-pro talent. Whenever he was lined up opposite of Antonio Brown, Juju was producing like a wide receiver one. Then they added a fringe guy like Ronald Jones, who is the most frustrating dude in all of fantasy football. But whenever you have a talented back and an offense like KC, I think he's going to produce. And I think if you are a fan of CEH, might be time to just set your sails somewhere else. They brought back Orlando Brown on the franchise tag, and with Justin Reed being brought into the fold, they lose a little bit in terms of leadership on defense. But that's why you paid a guy like Frank Clark for 2 more years, and you still have Chris Jones on that defense. It's not going to be the same upside as we've seen from this KC offense over the past couple of years, but I do think the upside of this offense is baked into the value of Patrick Mahomes and the talent that he possesses. So while Tyreek Hill really is the thing that really popped the top off of this offense, I don't think their floor is any lower than it was last year. I think their ceiling is marginally lower, essentially. Yeah. Instead of having 15-foot ceilings, they have 10-foot at this point, which in the AFC could be enough to get them to another Super Bowl. We'll have to see because for everything I've said, they still have Mecole Hardman, who's been destined for a breakout since my freshman year of college. And Travis Kelce is the best receiver, not playing wide receiver in all of football. And I don't think that's overstatement by any means. So bye-bye Tyreek. I'm really interested to see who put who on in this relationship, or if it was just a thing where they both benefited. And Tyreek's numbers go down a little bit and Mahomes' numbers go down a little bit. And it was never just one guy, But I wouldn't be surprised if Tyreek's numbers take a hit whenever he doesn't have one of the best arms in football throwing to him. And I wouldn't be surprised if Mahomes is down by like 300 passing yards a year because Tyreek doesn't break off 6 receptions for 80 yards.
Right.
So there's going to be variance with this whole Chiefs thing. But I don't think they lost enough to where I'm scared to bet against them. Because it's still Andy Reid. It's still Patrick Mahomes. They are not an institution, but in this league, I don't see many teams that still give you the combination of what they have. And that's coming from a Chargers fan. I'm not going to bet against the Chiefs until they give me the reason to. Because even last year, we thought they were dead. You thought they were dead going into like the halfway point of the year, and they came back. And they were how many plays away from another Super Bowl appearance? About a half of football. They blew a lead, and it sucked. And it is what it is. But
through a pick in overtime.
Yeah, this team is far from dead. This team was, 2 plays away from going to another Super Bowl. So no Tyreek Hill. I'm assuming no problem until I see problems.
Speaking of problems, if the Chargers weren't problems last year, they will be this year. Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, the two probably biggest additions to your defense.
So
go at it.
So I'm just going to read off every single signing and trade we made this offseason, according to NFL.com. First one on the docket, Chase Daniel re-signed as a free agent. He's our backup quarterback, really good locker room guy, good veteran leader, someone that Herbert can confide in. We brought in wide receiver and kick returner DeAndre Carter, who silently had a really good year.
Thing about re-signing Chase Daniel is that you just got to give Herbert that competition. Be like, this guy is right on your coattails. Like, watch out.
Chase Daniel is so far away from his coattails. Herbert's wearing a suit coat that has like imagine like the tail of a wedding dress, but add 50 feet onto that, the coattails of Herbert's jacket. But back to the point, wide receiver and kick returner DeAndre Carter signed a 1-year deal with the Chargers. If you were sleeping last year, he had a really good year as a specialist out in Washington last year. And even as a receiver, if it wasn't for Taylor Heineke throwing the ball, I think he would have more yards. But he's an explosive and sometimes elite return guy on a special teams unit that was really hit or miss last year until we added an Andre Roberts. Re-signed Mike Williams, 3 years, $60 million. Austin told me that deal sucks, and I told him it's pretty good. And after my friend Christian Kirk got paid, I will tell you once again, Austin, it's a great deal. Whenever guys like Tyreek Hill and Devonta Adams get paid $30 million a year, and Christian Kirk is making more money annually than Mike Williams, this is a deal I'm comfortable with. It
goes to show that the Jaguars ruin everything.
The markets are insane, and I'd rather pay a little bit too much immediately than have to pay $10 million more a year later. So the Mike Williams deal, I think, is going to be great for Herbert's rookie scale deal. They then signed Gerald Everett to a 2-year, $12 million deal. You pair him with Parham, I think the tight end room gets an immediate upgrade. If you didn't watch the Chargers last year, I will tell you Jared Cook lost his hands, and they have not been found since. Could not stop dropping passes. The Chargers actually led the league in dropped passes last year, if you didn't know that. Christian Covington, defensive tackle, signed to the team. Austin Johnson and Sebastian Joseph Day, 2 major signings for this defense. We could not stop the run. We signed 3 D tackles to try and finally plug the gaps. Joseph Day was a really big part of this Rams team and their run defense throughout the entirety of the playoffs. And I think he will be an immediate upgrade to anything the Chargers have had. And while Austin Johnson was not a household name coming from the Giants, he is a huge body that can plug holes in terms of stopping gaps for running backs. So the combination of all 3 of those guys immediately should supplant. It's going to improve the defense just based upon the bodies and the talent that is in that combination of 3 guys. Then the next 2 names, I don't even have to describe what happened. We got Khalil Mack for a 2nd-round draft pick, essentially. So yeah. It's the best trade we've made in a very long time. His contract got restructured, so the cap hit's going to be a bit shorter. And we put the nail in the coffin in signing J.C. Jackson. You only have this opportunity so many times as a franchise. You essentially have 5 years from the time you draft your franchise guy. But at the same time, you have to understand he's your franchise guy before those 5 years are done. So Herbert's rookie year was the best gift the Chargers ever got. And missing the playoffs is arguably the best one we've gotten since. Because if we make the playoffs and we go on a run, I don't think we're as aggressive this offseason in bringing in top-end talent and actually maximizing this rookie scale deal. But now we have a arguably top 5 corner, over the last decade, a top 5 pass rusher. And we've brought in arguably the best, a top 10 wide receiver 2 in the league in Mike Williams. We upgraded the kick returner spot. And for everyone that doesn't know the Chargers history and the lore, The Chargers kicking has sucked for my entire life, whether it was Nate Kading
No,
or Josh
no,
Lambo.
no.
Austin.
Devin.
This franchise in 2010 had the league's best offense and best defense. And you know where we were come January, February? We were at home. We missed the playoffs because we had the 32nd ranked special teams unit. We bring back Dustin Hopkins on a multi-year contract to finally shore up the spot at kicker. I'm knocking on wood because I do not want to jinx that. He was great last year for the team, and I expect more moving forward. This is a team that looked in the mirror and re-signed guys they needed going into next year and brought in talent that they weren't afraid to go after. And this last one that I'm going to mention, it's a long snapper. Who cares? This stuff matters. The best teams in the NFL have these spots locked up and they trust the guys there. We signed Josh Harris to a 4-year, $5.6 million deal to be our long snapper. And I think he came from Green Bay. But he has a pretty good record in terms of his acumen for long snapping in the league. So he's going to be an upgrade to what we had. The draft will be very interesting. I kind of want us to trade back, try and get some second-round draft capital, maybe a pick next year as well, just because now that we don't have our second-rounder, I don't think the tackle prospects will be there at 17. We don't need a receiver, and the corner prospects should be gone in terms of the value that I want at 17.
Yeah.
But this team, comparatively to anybody else in the AFC, the Chargers went from borderline playoff team to borderline Super Bowl champion with everything on paper. And while I will say it now, I'm going to temper my expectations. While I think this team can win the division and they will be in the playoffs, they could be from a division winner or a wild card team. But I've seen it before with teams like Philadelphia whenever they signed Vince Young, Nnamdi Asomugha, that whole Michael Vick year, where it was the best team on paper and it just never panned out. Things like that happen. So I'm going to have to wait for this team to prove it to me on the field. But for everything they've done this offseason, I'm ready to bolt up. I'll just say that. So here's hoping.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride, especially when we do the AFC West later this year. It's going to be
paint my face blue, dude. It's going to be wild.
Do it. Please.
I'm going to show up in a lightning bolt costume.
We'll stick on the topic of quarterbacks and we'll save one of the bigger ones for last. Let's talk about Indy, talk about Atlanta.
Matty Ice.
Matty Ice is off of Atlanta, heading to the Indianapolis Colts. A lot of dead money.
If there's one thing the Colts are not afraid of, it's dead money.
True. The Saints and the Colts with dead money. Name a more iconic duo. Look, it was time for a change. Look, you can start with the Colts and say they fucked up by getting Carson Wentz. Didn't work out, and they realized that immediately. Atlanta was not going to go anywhere with Matthew Ryan. I almost said Stafford. They weren't going to go anywhere with Matt Ryan, and there was no reason to keep him around anymore. At least in my opinion. There was no point in paying him the amount of money that he was making. And the Colts, once again, will have to mortgage the future because they are set to win now. They just can't find the quarterback. They were basically in the same situation that Denver was. They were over their starting quarterback, and they needed a better starting quarterback. Did they get the best one on the market? Not even close, but you could probably say Matt Ryan is an upgrade over Carson Wentz for sure. Even despite Matt Ryan's age, I think he still has a great arm and is a good quarterback. He has a great running back in Jonathan Taylor. He's got Michael Pittman and Zach Pascal and Mo Alley Cox. They have a good defense. The Colts really only have to contend with the Titans. They don't have to worry about the Jags. They're not going to have to worry about the Texans. They basically just got to get slightly better than the Titans because the wild card is going to be a dogfight. And who knows what the Titans are going to do this year? Who knows if Derrick Henry is going to stay healthy? Who knows if A.J. Brown is going to be there? Julio Jones isn't a Titan anymore. Not that that really mattered. Julio Jones still a free agent?
Yeah, he is.
Sit here? Good
Lord. His hamstrings are still in the market.
So what do you think? What are we thinking about Matty Ice?
This is a guy who, as early as 2 years ago, passed for almost 4,600 yards in the season. Back in 2020, he threw for almost 4,600 yards with where's his touchdowns at? I got the stat right here. So threw 26 touchdowns to 11 picks. I think it's the best move they could have made, despite trading for Matthew Stafford last offseason. I think the Colts got caught with their dick in their hand, to be as blunt as possible. They were really just at the whim of Philip Rivers' retirement, and they had nowhere else to go because Jacoby Brissett isn't a starting NFL caliber quarterback. And so they said, wow, Matthew Stafford just got dealt for a bunch of first-round picks and a hand grenade and Jared Goff. We probably could have made a crack at that. But they didn't, so they had to audible over to Carson Wentz, who on paper wasn't that much worse. He was far worse than Matthew Stafford, but I think if you gave Matt Ryan the roster the Colts had last year, the Colts are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, over the course of his career, has been a top 10 quarterback for the bulk of it, aside from this last 3-4 year stretch whenever we had this youth movement of rushing upside guys that have just taken the league by storm. For every record that Matthew Stafford has broken in terms of accumulation stats, I'm pretty sure Matt Ryan is right there or right ahead of him. Like, Matt Ryan has been a great quarterback for the bulk of his career, and while it doesn't always result in wins, it usually does. He's 120 and 102 as a starter in the league. He's effectively a winner for a franchise that really didn't do a whole lot before him and hasn't done much or won't do much after him. Last year, he had Kyle Pitts and Olamide Zaccheaus, along with Russell Gage, to throw to. The fact that he managed to put up 20 touchdowns and almost 4,000 yards is commendable. He gets upgrades at running back. His offensive line is way better, and that defense is like a phoenix. It constantly retools. You have pieces in DeForest Buckner and Darius Leonard, while they're adding pieces like a Yannick Ngakoue, like a Stephon Gilmore. Xavier Rhodes is having a career renaissance out in Indy. And in an offseason where the Tennessee Titans have lost pieces and they stand to possibly lose a couple of games of A.J. Brown if they refuse to pay him top receiver money, the Colts finally did something right. They've been caught in this quarterback purgatory, and I think Matt Ryan is the answer. I didn't see him fall off a cliff last year. I didn't touch him in fantasy because he's old and he's a very awkwardly built white guy. He doesn't run the ball. He sits in the pocket, and when guys get open, he'll hit them. His arm is not a noodle. And I think with guys around him, and whenever you have a defense as capable as Indianapolis, they should win this division, and I don't expect it to be close.
And that's the thing, right? They have to make this move now because the Titans have lost pieces, continue to lose pieces. Ryan Tannehill continues to get a little worse every year.
Yeah, my thing last year was when they traded for Carson Wentz, I opened up the year and I said the Colts are going to win this division. If you would have given Matt Ryan to that team, the Colts win the division, and I don't think it's that. Well, Mike Vrabel did some crazy things last year with that Titans team. They were the first seed in all of football. So they were a really weird team last year. But
they make the playoffs.
Yeah,
because all they had to do was beat the Jaguars.
And Matt Ryan does that. I don't care what you say. Even though the Falcons lost to the Jags in London, didn't they? Or what?
I think so.
I think that's what happened, yeah. But no, Matt Ryan with the pieces they have over there. It's the best situation that I could have thought of for them. Like, Matt Ryan would have worked in Denver if the Broncos didn't end up getting like, Matt Ryan's the ultimate plug-and-play starter. Like, I think he's their best quarterback since Andrew Luck.
I mean, is he basically – I know he's probably not on the tail end like Phillip was, but he's basically Phillip in this situation.
So Phillip came over when he was like 40 or like 39.
Matt
Ryan's only 36. So they've got maybe a year or two. Because the thing with Phillip was his arm strength was never super duper elite besides his first decade in the league. He was just super accurate. Like, he could hit holes. But Phillip was never the Peyton or Tom where you could just drop back and throw it 60 yards and just overpower a defense. Phillip was more.
Tom, he bamboozled us all, so he'll be a Buccaneer next year.
Yeah, sorry we mourned your career, Tom. Shout out to the guy that got the refund for that final touchdown ball because he was about to be 500,000 down. But yeah, especially for the Colts, whenever you have franchises like the Jacksonville Jaguars giving Zay Jones and Christian Kirk market-setting money for receivers. Like,
Fuck, dude. We'll get to the Jaguars in a second. Got 2 quarterbacks left that I can remember off the top of my head.
gotcha.
Quickly through Carson Wentz.
Commanders. Terry
The
McLaurin,
Washington
congrats.
Commanders. Dan Snyder's money laundering scheme. I don't know.
The soon-to-be Snyderless Washington Commanders.
God, they can only
Hopefully.
hope.
Yeah.
Look, Carson Wentz is an upgrade over Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke was done. That show was over. It was a nice story. He was a good runner. That's it. He had a couple flashes here and there, but Taylor Heineke was never the answer for the Commanders. But I don't think Carson Wentz is either. I don't know if they stand to hold on to Terry McLaurin. They got J.D. McKissick back, so of course he's going to hoe more yards from Antonio Gibson. But the biggest problem they had last year was defense. They were supposed to come in with this all-caliber defense to back up Heineke and put Heineke in good situations, and they got their asses kicked. Granted, Chase Young tore his ACL. I hope he's back next season full and healthy, but that's a big blow. And the fact that their secondary is one of the worst in the league. Never at any point did I think they could contend for the division. They just fell apart. And, they fixed their quarterback problem kind of, but he doesn't really have a ton of guys to throw to. He doesn't have really a great of a defense. Washington has a lot of problems to fix now. They've if their defense doesn't kind of go back to what they were in 2020, there's not really a whole lot to be hopeful for the Commanders.
The Carson Wentz thing. So there's been a lot of times in this podcast where I just say a guy's cooked or he's done. I don't think Carson Wentz is done. I do think if he fails here, it might be over for him. But that Carson Wentz has, so for 1, 2, 3, 4. So for 4 out of his 6 years in the league, he's thrown 7 interceptions or less for a full season. That's an impressive stat. While he didn't play full years in his second or third year, he played 13 and 11 games respectively. 7 picks is 7 picks. He threw 30-plus touchdowns 1 year. That's his sophomore year. And he had 27 passing touchdowns, 21. So realistically, Carson Wentz in 2019 was Carson Wentz of 2021 with just like a lot less in the passing yards department. Carson Wentz's biggest problem is playing within himself. Last year, Carson Wentz made some very, very bad decisions at very, very bad times. He played pretty damn well for this Colts organization until he didn't. For the most part, they were 9-8, and he just couldn't get them over the hump in the game they needed to win.
The biggest problem with the Colts was putting teams away. They had leads. They had leads over the Titans. They had the Bucs right where they wanted them. But Carson Wentz could never put the drive together that put the nail in the coffin, and these teams would wake up. He would throw a pick to even help them get up, and it cost them games. It literally, in a 17-game season, every single game matters. Every single game matters in baseball, basketball. It matters in them all. But it's so magnified when you can't put teams away in a 17-game season. It's a big fucking problem.
So while I just think Carson Wentz has upside playing out in the NFC East, I don't see a lot of teams that are going to be super keen on stopping him, especially with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick out there in the backfield. Terry McLaurin will be arguably the best receiver he's had the chance to play with. So I am looking forward to that pairing being the best of what they've seen comparatively in their careers towards each other. And Logan Thomas has to get healthy. The secondary has to be addressed out in Washington because Carson Wentz will not win you in shootouts. But with a division as weak as the NFC East, I'm not saying the Commanders win the division, but they're far better off than they were last year. And I think that's important because if Chase Young's fully healthy and you have Montez Sweat out there and the rest of their defense can follow suit, I think Carson Wentz could have a career resurgence in this offense. Do I expect it? Not entirely, but I think he's better set up here than he was in Indy. I don't know if his relationship with Frank Reich got in the way a little bit. I do think there was a problem because Frank Reich has been a Wentz guy since he was drafted. They were really close out in Philadelphia. Philadelphia went sour, and he was totally open to bringing in a Carson Wentz. And for me, if I were running an NFL franchise or I were coaching a team, it's one thing to have a personal relationship with the players that you're coaching. Bringing in a guy because you like him as the person is not always the best move. And Carson didn't show the Colts much the year prior that he was going to be a direct improvement upon what they had. And so I think the Colts got caught in wasting a year because of the appeal of a Carson Wentz as opposed to the proven production of a Carson Wentz. With the Commanders, the Colts are eating most of his contract, if I'm correct, from the Carson Wentz thing.
I think so.
They're eating a chunk of the contract. They didn't have to trade a whole lot. So the Colts lost far more than the Commanders had to give up. They already lost a draft pick this year for the Carson Wentz deal. So the Commanders bringing him in is essentially like whenever the Patriots brought in Cam Newton. It's low risk, high reward. If it pans out, the Commanders look great. If it doesn't, it was a last-ditch effort to try and get Terry McLaurin a quarterback because they're not picking high enough to get themselves a top guy in this draft. And even if they wanted a top guy in this draft, I don't think this is the year to try and get your franchise quarterback.
No, 100% no.
At least not in the first round.
All right, speaking of top guy. Deshaun Watson. Okay, so I'm going to make a quick disclaimer for Devin and I. Neither of us have done high in depths into Deshaun Watson's legal situation.
I've looked into the legal situation.
Okay.
I will not speak upon it.
Okay, so yeah, we have not looked into it enough or been involved enough to comment on Deshaun Watson's legal status. So what we cover here is simply where Deshaun Watson goes, what the Texans got for him. That's it. I don't know if he's getting suspended. I don't know if he's innocent, if he's guilty. I don't know. It's not for us to comment. I'm not a part of said situation. I'm just covering a trade. Therefore, Deshaun Watson was traded to the Cleveland Browns. It was the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, whether he was a Panther, who else? Miami, and Cleveland jumped in on him. Falcons. There was a handful of guys jumping in on for Deshaun Watson. Cleveland ultimately ended up winning said sweepstakes. Now they're kind of, let's just say they fucked Baker Mayfield. However you feel about Baker Mayfield, his skills as a person, anything like that, the Cleveland Browns fucked Baker Mayfield because they told him one thing, they completely did another. They have kind of toyed with, they don't know whether Baker's their quarterback or not, and now he's just not their quarterback. It's as simple as that. Do you have the full trade details? What did the Browns send? They sent
I do.
97 first-round picks.
Deshaun Watson was acquired in a trade with the Browns along with the 2024 sixth-round pick in exchange for 3 first-rounders from 2022 all the way to 2024, a third-rounder in 2023, and 2 fourth-rounders, 2022 and 2024. Watson then received the highest-paying contract and fully guaranteed money in NFL history. It's
only
symbolic.
Making $1 million this season.
Yeah, his cap hit for the 2022 season is $1 million. I'm assuming that is, in fact, established due in part to the fact that Watson expects to be suspended for a significant portion of time in his first year with the Browns, which I think is scumbag behavior, but that is not the point of this discussion. This is the kiss of death for a franchise that has been incompetent for the entirety of my life. Cleveland, congratulations, you fucked it up. It's one thing to trade for Deshaun Watson whenever you're paying him on a decent deal. You're paying a guy that won't have played. He has not played football since 2020, did not touch the field last year, has not even practiced in full since 2020. He's gone through 2 ACL surgeries, and now he has all this stuff off the field. And I get it. Whenever he's on the field, he is electric. Whenever he is healthy, he is one of the best quarterbacks football can offer you. He raises a team's floor significantly. But what Cleveland has done has set a nasty precedent for what they're going to do for the future. This whole regime, front office, head coach, all that shit, they don't give a fuck about anything except football, which really doesn't show by the team's record over the last decade. So I think it's chicken shit. They alienated Baker Mayfield, a man who not only was their first overall draft pick, a man that led them to the playoffs for the first time in over 20 years. He had a bad year whenever he got hurt, and they didn't want to pay him the max money, which is fine. You don't have to pay Baker Mayfield, but show him at least a modicum of respect for what he's done for your franchise. Because now they're paying Myles Garrett big money. They're paying Nick Chubb big money. And now they're paying Deshaun Watson, a guy who might not even play next year, massive amounts of money. And the thing with this is, for as much as Denver gave up for Russell Wilson, he's playing every down of football if he stays healthy. And he's making less money than Deshaun Watson. And they're still going to have draft picks after the next 2 years. So if Russell Wilson doesn't pan out and they want to tank for the next best quarterback in the draft after he's gone, they can do that. This Deshaun Watson thing has to work right now. And if it does not, this trade is the worst thing we've seen in the NFL since Ricky Williams becoming a Saint. It's that bad. They gave up far too much for a guy that might not even touch the field this year.
Yeah. And the thing is, they were an 8-9 team last year, and they struggled in some games, and I just don't. He's going to set the team to another level, but the problem is look around you, what you are going to have to go through. You're going to have to go through Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and whatever the Steelers throw out. Whatever the Steelers throw out, I know every year that has taught me to never count out the Pittsburgh Steelers. Whoever they throw out at quarterback this year, they'll still be a good team. They'll still be in it one way or another. And that's just their own division. And then you look at Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, Miami, and what they're putting together. The Jets, the Patriots almost made the play. No, they did make the playoffs. I'm crazy. They made the playoffs. You go over to the AFC West. You try and look away from the AFC West, pretend it's not there because it's just too scary to look at. This isn't. Who's he going to throw to? Odell?
Amari Cooper.
Oh, yeah, they got Amari Cooper. I tried to repress that memory, and I forgot Amari Cooper was a Cleveland Brown.
But my biggest thing is I don't think – I get Baker didn't feed Odell Beckham Jr., but do we expect Jacoby Brissett to make Amari Cooper as dynamic as he truly can be? And my biggest thing about the Deshaun Watson situation and him possibly being suspended is – you go back to 2010, I'm reading this article, will Deshaun Watson be suspended? He wasn't charged criminally, but in order to charge somebody of sexual assault in a criminal court, it's extremely hard, especially whenever you don't have physical evidence because these instances happened. And whenever you're an individual in a field like cosmetology or even massage therapy, if a professional athlete or celebrity elicits your help for a service, you don't want that to go wrong because the amount of publicity you can get in terms of just their endorsement is insane to businesses. So I'm not speaking here or there on that, but Ben Roethlisberger was suspended for multiple games under the league's personal conduct policy 12 years ago, whenever he was not charged in a crime in a case involving accusations of sexual assault. And if I'm correct, that was one woman. Deshaun is facing 22 separate women accusing him of lewd activities and sexual assault. Or sexual misconduct, if I'm misspeaking. So this is unprecedented stuff in today's times. Goodell has an impossible hand in terms of how they have to evaluate this. I don't think we get a ruling from the investigation until mid-season.
Let me ask you one thing. If the Cleveland Browns never get a single down of football out of Deshaun Watson,
they're paying him $230 million.
Right. But this franchise is fucked for years on end. And they literally just got out of being a poverty franchise.
They never got out of
playoffs.
They never got out of it.
But that's the thing is you got arguably one of the best guys talent-wise. It was a sweepstakes for a reason because, Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback, but you've taken so much risk by doing this, and you don't even have an insane team built around them. That's a problem too.
Cleveland drank their own Kool-Aid to the point where even I was saying Cleveland could be a team to look out for coming into this season. They peaked too early. They could not stay healthy this year. and they were too full of their own shit to adapt during a season where the AFC North was as weak as it's ever going to be. I think they ended up beating the Steelers in that wild card game, and the Steelers effectively beat themselves to a certain extent. And then they barely lost the Chiefs, and Mahomes got knocked out. I think Cleveland got too full of themselves, and now this is the panic deal. This is where they say, "Damn, our window's right now," when realistically it probably hadn't even opened yet. So I hate the deal for Cleveland. I feel terrible for Baker Mayfield. Hopefully he's suiting up in a Panthers uniform and he and Christian McCaffrey can have some fun. But
I would love to see it, to be honest. I think we're all over Sam Darnold.
Yeah, if I were a fan of the Cleveland Browns, I'd be searching for some new jerseys to rock come Sundays because optically it looks terrible. Logistically, it looks terrible. And I just don't see many scenarios where this pans out well for Cleveland or even Deshaun. Because
it's going to be something else.
This is coming from a person that over my years I've drafted him in fantasy. I've been happy to have him on my roster, but the things that he's facing, they're really hard to shake. And if he did these things, they are monstrous acts. And it's just a really, 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 really weird thing to leverage your entire franchise upon. And the talent is there. Whenever he's been healthy, he has been a electric quarterback on the field, but there's only so many things you can get away with off the field before nothing matters on the field, because we're all human beings. We all serve to the same structures of society. So if this Deshaun Watson stuff is real, I don't know what's going to happen, because it's not going to be good for any party involved.
All right, so we got about 20 minutes left, so we'll kind of run through some moves, give our thoughts on them.
Mitch Trubisky, biggest quarterback deal of the summer.
I don't hate it.
It's better.
It's not better than Mason Rudolph.
It's low risk, high reward. It's really sad that this quarterback battle isn't going to actually be much of a competition going into the year with the tragic passing of Dwayne Haskins. It would have been cool to see him get his shot again out in Pittsburgh. Condolences to the family and friends of Dwayne. Our hearts go out to them. The Mitch deal, I think it helps the upside of what this unit is going to be post Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, even before the tragic passing of Dwayne Haskins, it was a good signing to put, three quarterbacks in the room of Trubisky, Rudolph, and Haskins that you have some options and some sort of belief in. I thought Mike Tomlin was going to work some sort of wonders on Dwayne Haskins, and I was looking forward to it. But to kind of step away from that, in the now, Mitch Trubisky is probably the guy now.
Yeah. Unless they get somebody in the draft, which I don't fully expect this class.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's Malik Willis out of all people. If
they're not, I'd see them going for a guy like Kenny Pickett. I think he fits the profile of what Ben was a little bit. I'm not saying he'll be as good as Ben, but he went to Pitt. He's been from the area. I've seen Desmond Ridder meeting with Mike Tomlin before, so he could be a guy.
But yeah, so they have Mitch Trubisky. They signed Miles Jack. They still have Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. They still have Najee Harris. This team's going to compete.
It should play pretty well against their division.
Especially with you watch Ben Roethlisberger last year, and you knew that was it. His arm was done. His body just was done. Props to Ben for playing all the games, and he's gotten his ass kicked over his lifetime. He's had a lot of injuries, but he did his best. They almost made the playoffs. I will always give Ben Roethlisberger the props for just going out there and still doing it at his age, his size, his injuries. Then you look down at teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who signed Zay Jones and Christian Kirk to way too much money.
Sometimes it pays to have deep pockets. Other times you pay for having deep pockets. And in this scenario, it seems like they're going to be paying for it for a while. You have to give Trevor Lawrence something to play with. Laviska Shenault, Lacron, Tread, what they had last year was not working. DJ Chark was not working. They've given some help on the line to a guy in Trevor Lawrence who I have high hopes for. They brought in Evan Ingram, who hopefully left his hands in New York and got some new ones, because if he has those out in Jacksonville, it won't be good. But at least they're trying. It'd be one thing.
That's the biggest thing, right? Is they drafted Trevor Lawrence. They had their pick out of all the 5 quarterbacks.
They got the
chose
guy.
Trevor Lawrence. They got their guy.
He was number one. If they would have reached for Zach Wilson at number one, my brains would have just been splattered all over this room, because it would not have made any sense. That'd be like just a shot to the head.
So
he was the one guy
they have their guy. They have their guy. They have Travis Etienne coming in off his Achilles injury next year. I don't know how long James Robinson's going to be out, so it's probably the Lawrence and Etienne show. You had the wide receiver market. You look at Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams getting moved. Never at any point were the Jaguars going to get either of those guys. So they basically paid. They were never going to get Mike Williams.
They were in on Mike Williams, is my thing. I think the Christian Kirk move was their immediate pivot once Williams went off the board. Because I think they wanted to pay Mike Williams 4 years, $80 million or something like that. But Mike elected, I'm cool with Herbert. LA's actually a really great place to live, and he's fine making that money.
But that's what I'm saying. Nobody wants to go there.
It's not Miami.
Devontae, Mike Williams, they were not going to go there.
I get you.
So they pretty much paid top dollar for what technically was the top receivers on the market. I mean, Zay Jones probably not. Christian Kirk is a decent wide receiver.
Very talented, super fast.
He was basically a big fish in a very small pond. That was the wide receiver free agency market.
They paid wide receiver 1 money for a career wide receiver 2, possibly wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
Because that's what you have to do in Jacksonville, which sucks because they went from having a team that had D.D. Westbrook, Allen Robinson, Chris Conley. They had receiver talent, and Blake Bortles ran them all out of town. So it's like, it's just part of the growing pains. If Trevor Lawrence can establish himself as one of the best passers in football, it gets easier to bring in the top-end talent. But if you don't have the arms and the location, it's extremely hard to bring guys in. But it's not a great deal. I think Christian Kirk will be good as the wide receiver 1. Not great, but he had his best year with Kyler Murray last year. And if he's getting 100-plus targets, he should be around 1,000 yards for the year. It's not like he was dropping a bunch of passes. He upped his catch percentage by 14% last year. So he's improving. Maybe they're just catching a guy whenever he's on the uptick, which was what they're going to have to hope for.
Yeah. Speaking of the Cardinals, they re-signed AJ Green.
That's a good deal. With DeAndre Hopkins and his health, you kind of have to pick your battles on who you're.
It's pretty much now who you throwing at quarterback. Is it Kyler Murray? Is it Colt McCoy?
Yeah,
going to be the biggest thing for them. The Carolina Panthers, I think they have to throw. Robbie Anderson, I don't give a fuck what you think. Baker Mayfield needs to be the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. It's as simple as that. They need a very small improvement. They're a decent team, especially if Christian McCaffrey is healthy. And I think Baker Mayfield adds them to be a fringe playoff team.
Yeah.
At best. PJ Walker, Cam Newton, Sam Darnold. No. You tried that. You tried it all last year and it didn't work at all.
Other big names, big thing for the NFC West. The Rams got Allen Robinson and Bobby Wagner as soon as they lost Von Miller. Because Von Miller's a Buffalo Bill, guys. We didn't mention that at all. He signed a 5-year deal for like $120 million.
So much has happened.
Yeah, we would need a 4-hour show to go in depth on everything. But the Rams, in losing a guy in Robert Woods, who is now a Tennessee Titan, as we mentioned, now he was traded. I know. But Allen Robinson signed a 3-year, $46 million deal. Stafford got his extension, and then you bring in Bobby Wagner, and they re-signed Brian Allen, who I thought was one of their marquee free agents that they needed to bring back. He was a big part of their line coming out of this Super Bowl run. So
the Cowboys re-signed Michael Gallup.
The Cowboys got Michael Gallup. You've got we
got Randy Great.
The Broncos got Randy Gregory. Out in Arizona, Zach Ertz got that 3-year deal. Congrats to him. Blaine
Much
Gabbert is
deserved. I
back.
like Zach Ertz a lot.
Blaine Gabbert's back with the Bucks along with Leonard Fournette. Shaq Mason's still out there. And
Bruce Arians bounced.
If you're looking at the signings, Keanu Neal is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Logan Ryan is out there as well. And not only did Chris Godwin get another franchise tag, he also signed a 3-year, $60 million contract.
Deserved.
It's got $40 million guaranteed. And honestly, that's probably the best deal of all of the offseason. Mike Williams got 3 years, 60. Chris Godwin just got that. And I think Mike and Chris are similar. I think they do different things at better rates. Godwin can operate from the slot a lot more. I think Williams is a better vertical spacer. So really good value on the Chris Godwin deal. And they brought in a guy in Russell Gage to play with Tom Brady. So now instead of going AB, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, you have Evans, Godwin, Russell Gage. It's a really solid 3-headed receiver room. And with Giovanni Bernard back in Tampa Bay, this team shouldn't miss a step. They're going to be really good, even with Bruce Arians in retirement. Our boy Jameis, he's the starter. He's back out there. The Saints also brought in Andy Dalton's a Saint. 1 year, $3 million deal. Did not know that until I just looked at it. Yeah. And then
not the worst guy. I think Jameis is the guy regardless. He led him to 5-2 last year before his ACL injury. But I don't think I said it with the Cowboys too. Andy Dalton's not the worst number 2 to have in the world. It's a decent number 2 to have.
Speaking of the Saints, Marcus Williams joined the Ravens this offseason as well. Zadarius Smith is a Viking, or Preston Smith. One of the Smith guys is now a Minnesota Viking. There's been so much movement this offseason. It would take the next 2 hours to actually get it done.
Everybody hates Kirk Cousins, but not really because he's
1 year, $35 million. We love Kirk Cousins on this show, I guess.
You like that?
Aaron Rodgers, if you didn't know, he's getting paid a fuck ton of money to exist. Good for him. Alan Lazard, 2nd round registered free agent tender. Sammy Watkins is a Green Bay Packer. If this were 2016, let's go. Bob Tonyan.
Shout out to Sammy Watkins for his 250-yard game on week 1.
Oh, I fucked up. Preston Smith is still a Green Bay Packer. 4 years, $52.5 million.
Darius Smith.
He's a Viking now. Rasul Douglas, guy that broke out last year after being a free agent, 3 years, $21 million. And as I mentioned, DJ Chark earlier in the show, he's playing for the Lions. We're going to see a lot of old names and new uniforms this year. And I think the NFL is going to be super fresh come week 1 because
wild.
It's going to be amazing. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Byron Pringle, another of Tyreek and the Hills, is officially gone. Demarcus Robinson is a Raider. Byron Pringle's a Bear. Yeah, a lot of stuff has happened.
Matthew might be an Eagle. He might be a Saint. Nobody knows.
He might be a Raven. Who knows? This is insane. It's insanity. The team with the most mid offseason was really the Commanders. They lost a lot of shit. They're paying Carson Wentz a lot of money, and hopefully Terry resigns. That's their offseason. Yeah. You even have Jason Kelsey's on a new deal. Fletcher Cox is coming back. Kazir White signed with the Eagles. I know you're like, nobody cares, Devin. I care. I miss him already. He was a Chargers linebacker. Really good energy guy. Matt Breida's on the Giants, and Tyrod Taylor's coming for Daniel Jones's lunch money. There's going to be so many cool things to look at come week 1 of the NFL season. Dalton Schultz, franchise tagged. You love it whenever they give your tight end the franchise tag.
Blake Jarwin.
Dante Fowler, he got signed on a 1-year deal. And you guys brought back the heart of your defense in Leighton Vander Esch. Go Cowboys, I guess.
LVE.
All things considered, most teams got better and a solid chunk got a little bit worse. Kyle Allen and Jeff Driscoll got signed to the AFC South leading Houston Texans. And whenever I say leading, I mean draft picks. Marlon Mack is
Which way is Kyle Allen's ankle pointing?
Now you can ask Dak Prescott, I guess. But Brandon Cooks re-signed.
Wow.
It was low-hanging fruit. What can I say, man?
Wow.
You went there. I just brought it up a notch. It's the same exact injury. The Browns will not let David Njoku go. They franchise tagged that poor guy. They said, "Oh, you don't want to play here? Well, we want you here. So welcome back to the team."
Guess what, asshole?
Jesse Bates got franchise tagged. Lyle Collins is playing for the Cincinnati Bengals. Your favorite tight end, CJ Uzamoa, is a New York Jet. Hayden Hurst now to the Bengals. There's a lot of stuff that happened, and I think we're still waiting for some more moves. Greg the Leg is a New York Jet. Austin,
He
any
is?
tears from you? Yeah, he signed with the Jets. Greg Zerline, free agent
That's
contract.
wild.
They added Tyler Conklin as well. Braxton Berrios and Tevin Coleman got their
I
extension.
can't wait to miss clutch field goals because of poor time management by Mike McCarthy. It's honestly my favorite pastime. It's America's pastime, if you really think about it.
Jabril Peppers is a Patriot. The guy that got traded for Odell Beckham Jr. is a New England Patriot on a 1-year, $2 million deal with a max value of $5 million.
Odell Beckham still doesn't have a team, does he?
Trent Brown re-signed out in New England. James White re-signed. Hopefully he's healthy next year. And Devontae Parker got traded. There is a lot of stuff going on.
Wait, where did Devontae Parker go again?
The Patriots. He got traded.
Oh, that's right.
Well, they don't need him
Receiver
now
one.
with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle out in Miami. There's no room
True.
for a Devontae Parker. Needless to say, it's been a crazy offseason, and this could have been a 2-week episode type deal, but I think we've knocked most of it out. If any other
We were
deals
slamming
happen,
baseball for 7 weeks.
dude, I just Barry Bonds.
We love baseball on this podcast. Speaking of baseball, if you follow us for NBA talk, it's as simple as this. Year round, it is the fact that our schedule only allows us currently to record once a week at this current time for about an hour and a half. The NBA playoffs are happening, and I'm fully aware of that. I'm fully aware that Steph Curry's hitting threes, blah, 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 blah. We just don't have time. It's as simple as that. Devin loves basketball. Devin, the exercise bike right here, Devin.
That's me.
Devin loves basketball. He's super knowledgeable about it. So if anyone ever watching wants to talk basketball with Devin, have him on your show, come on the show, talk with him. I'm sure you guys can set something up. I particularly know that beyond the arc is 3 and inside the arc is 2, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I just never have been into basketball. I like it to watch it a little bit here and there, but I don't have a favorite team. I don't have this. I'm a baseball and football kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I watch a little bit of hockey, but I don't know jack shit about hockey outside of the Sharks and Alexander Ovechkin scoring like 97 goals a year. So there won't be too much NBA talk on the podcast anymore unless Devin schedules something in the mornings with people. Yeah. So if, like I said, if you want to talk basketball, Devin, you are more than welcome to hit us up on Twitter, slide into our DMs.
Oh, I love talking hoops. So just, feel free to shoot your shots proverbially. But in terms of the structure of just time management and such, until we can hammer out a couple more evening days, basketball is going to have to go on the back burner.
Because you look at where we are right now. We did 7 weeks of baseball. We missed a ton of NFL free agency, and now we have a draft in 10 days. we have a draft, and honestly, are you a real sports podcast if you don't cover the NFL draft? Yes, but not really.
The Makeshift Manager's second annual NFL first round mock draft, brought to you by Manscaped. Yeah, brought to you by Manscaped. Use code TMSM for 20% off and free shipping. Don't forget.
It's right here.
Boom. Easy as that.
But yeah, there's still a lot of NFL moves to be made. Probably not by the Cowboys, so they'll just continue to disappoint me. It was wild. It was probably one of the most wild NFL off seasons I've been a part of in a while. And it's still not done. That's the craziest part. And Tom Brady, fuck you.
Hey, Tom, we mourned your retirement. We're not doing it again. I don't care if it's real this time. I already said you were the best quarterback to ever live. I'm not saying it again. So congratulations. Hopefully you don't get any more rings, but if you do, I won't be surprised.
Look, Tom, you can do whatever the hell you want. You're a grown-ass man, but you spent like 2 months at home and realized that wasn't for you at all. But Tom Brady hit us with the old, I'm out, but I'm back in. Who'd the Bucks lose? Was it Marpet that they lost? Who retired?
Yeah, I think Ali Marpet retired.
Or was it Ryan Griffin? Is that a person?
One of the two. I can't tell you who it was.
He lost a lineman, but I can't remember who all of a sudden. But I don't think that stops the Bucs from being great next year, especially with Tom Brady at quarterback. Tom Brady can be 55 as long as he's throwing for 4,000 yards like he did last year. I mean, he won the passing title for crying out loud. So,
Yep.
I mean,
And they have a
but
great head coach, and they should have a great coach in Leftwich out there as well. A guy who I thought should have gotten Jacksonville's job. Now that Arians retires, he's going to have one of the
you
best.
telling me that Jacksonville fucked up? No.
Oh, no.
Not
Doug Peterson,
Jacksonville.
congrats. But yeah, Leftwich should have.
I heard Urban Meyer was available.
Oh, I think he's actually managing a Chili's in the tri-state area, so I don't think he's ready for any big-term NFL talk.
That's fair. That's fair. Oh, Lordy. It's going to be a wild season when it comes down to NFL breakdowns. That's 8 weeks of a lot.
I am ready. I am.
Do you realize we have to pick an AFC West winner? That's the biggest problem out of all this.
Just pick the Chargers. It's easy.
No, it's not. It's not how that's works.
All you got to do is say. All you got to say is 2 words. The Chargers. That's all you got to do. It's 2 words. Less than a sentence. They can't keep getting away with it, Austin. The Chiefs can't keep getting away with it.
They can.
It has to end soon.
We thought they were going to stop getting away with it last year. They lost Tyreek Hill. They got Juju Smith-Schuster. They'll find a way. They will find a way. It is the Kansas City Chiefs. It is Andy Reid. It is all this and all that. And we all know that Josh McDaniels is going to take the Raiders to the top anyways. So nothing really matters.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to get into this really weird, awkward Josh McDaniels echo chamber. So, Austin, if you don't have much left, I think it's time for me to say our final salute.
Yeah, before we continue to ramble incoherently for no reason whatsoever, we're going to send you off. Next week, we will be back with the NFL draft with our first-round mock draft with Malik Willis going number 1 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just kidding. It's the Cowboys because they traded up. I'm kidding. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, as always, guys, if you need any help with your men's grooming, use code TMSM at manscaped.com for free shipping and 20% off your entire order. From myself and Austin to all of you, we hope you had a great holiday. Even if you don't celebrate it, hope you had a good weekend. And from us to you, peace.